Hi, my name's Duncan McRae, Chief Editor at TechForge, and today we're joined by Iris Finkelstein-Sagi, Chief Marketing Officer at Telco Systems. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Perhaps you could start just by telling us a little bit about the company and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Chief Marketing Officer for Telco Systems. I like to think of Telco Systems as being the best kept secret in the industry. We've actually been around for almost 50 years. Our domain is telco.com, if you can believe it. And for the last 40, 50 years or so, we've been doing innovation for telecommunications industry around carrier Ethernet, Metrolinks and so on. And we've taken all of this sort of knowledge and expertise and built it into creating the best unified platform for edge computing that we could find. And the reason that we did that is we realized that edge computing was something that everybody in this industry was going to need to implement. Carriers, service providers, enterprises, of course. It's really cross-boundary.
All right. So you do a lot of work with edge computing, virtualization. What kind of trends have you seen developing in those areas?
Well, I think edge computing is, the term has been sort of floating around for the last couple of years, like 3 to 5 years or so. I think just now in 2022, 2023, we're really starting to see it take off. I think there was a lot of confusion in the past years as we understood more and more about clouds and cloud computing and public cloud, and we got comfortable with it, and suddenly this new term of edge computing sort of jumped on us.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of confusion about where does the cloud end and edge begin? If I have cloud, do I need an edge? And all kinds of questions like those. And I think now we're coming to the point that customers of all types understand that cloud and edge need to work together. It's not just one or the other, and the cloud continuum going from all the way from the cloud on one side, or rather the cloud edge continuum. So you have the cloud on one side, you have all the way down to this, basically, which is an edge device in of itself. And on the way, you have a variety of different types of edge devices, from large access servers to regional servers and so on. And the understanding today is really that this all goes together, and you really need to understand where you want to put the different workloads that you have, which ones are more applicable for cloud deployments and which one have to sit on the edge to get you the savings that you would expect from edge computing.
Yeah. So you mentioned savings. I was going to ask about the benefits. What do you think are the main benefits of edge computing?
Well, edge computing is really about taking all of these workloads and putting them as close to the end user as possible. And by putting them as close to the end user as possible, you gain the advantages of latency, for instance. So when you're working on the clouds, then all of this data has to travel back and forth, the transmission to the cloud and back and again. So if you're doing analysis, for instance, you're going to have to wait this millisecond for the data to transfer. And there are a lot of industries where this could be problematic in terms of security, financial, and so on. The other advantage is really if you're creating and producing data at the edge, you want to compute it and analyze it at the edge, because again, you don't want to have to store all of this information and then have to send it back, analyze it, and then send the results back to the edge. You want it all to happen at the edge. Another big savings, which I think people don't think of enough, is all about the scale of the edge. Again, as I said earlier, the cloud is understood, but the cloud has virtual devices which are all connected to the cloud. The edge does not have virtual devices. The edge is thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of physical devices, right? So it's just like, think of the economies of scale of the edge.
Are there any specific use cases that you know of that you could maybe share with us?
Yes, I think there are a few very specific, verticals where edge is a no-brainer, basically. So we can think of retail. So think of a large retail organization. I'm not going to say the name, but it rhymes with magnet. And they have thousands of stores across the US, for instance. And in each of these stores, they would have various sensors for quality control and motion sensors and customer analysis in store, and cash registers, and cameras, and any number of devices. And all of these devices are on-prem, in-store devices, but the headquarters sits in one central location in the US. And all of this information from all of these edge devices across the entire US has to be aggregated, managed, synchronized, orchestrated, provisioned. If you have new applications, you want to onboard them onto all of these thousands of edge devices without incurring additional costs. So retail is a really good example for this because it's just self-obvious. But then you have manufacturing facilities, factories which also have a large amount of edge devices in them, healthcare facilities such as hospitals and so on, financial institutions. I think really it's applicable to so many different types of use cases and verticals today.
So it's a technology that can be very beneficial for some companies, at least, but implementing it successfully, I think, is probably easier said than done. So what kind of advice would you give to companies that are starting out with this?
Yeah. I think one of the things you really have to look out for is sort of the balance between the openness of your system, the ability of your system to onboard any application or use any type of device or connect with any type of network on one hand, and then on the other hand you have to be careful that you're not putting together too many disparate pieces. You do want a one-stop shop because you want a solution that can manage all of your devices, provide you with your basic connectivity needs, your firewall, your routing, your SD-WAN, and so on, and be able to upload any applications that you would think of in the future. So you need to protect yourself against future applications by future-proofing yourself today. So that's one thing. The other thing is really in the planning. So a lot of customers that we talk to today, they're all about, which workloads am I putting on the edge? What about my legacy devices? What do I do with them? How do I provision them? But they're not thinking, one step back. So you have to think about what we call day zero instead of day one. So the day zero is really the planning. What will my edge architecture look like? How am I going to provision it? Who is going to administer it? What do I do with my DevOps organization? There's a lot of thinking that goes into it, and if you do this correctly, that means that on day one, all you have to do is really press a button, and you'll get automatically provisioning, automatic deployment, automatic monitoring, and it's all set up for you.
You make it sound easy.
Well, we like to say that edge computing is very complex, and our mission here is to make edge computing simple.
Yeah.
That's really what we're here to do.
So, for Telco Systems, what have you got planned for the year ahead?
What have I got planned for?
The year ahead. What does the future have in store for Telco Systems?
What we'd really like to see is more and more enterprises, such as the ones that are coming here today, understanding the benefits of edge computing and starting to really deploy it. I think this is the year that we're going to see, the big jump in edge computing deployments. There's been sort of, hesitation and this misunderstanding that I talked about before about the cloud and the edge, and I think it's all coming together now. We're going to see many more deployments. We have a lot of news coming up with different types of organizations. One trend that we are seeing, and I think that's going to grow also, is service providers who are sort of making this transformation into the managed services arena. So they are providing services for their business application, their business customers, basically, enterprises such as the ones that are coming here. So that's sort of like a different business model that we haven't seen today.
Well, good luck with everything, and thanks a lot for talking to us.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.